भजो प्रेम गाधे श्री राधे भजो प्रेम गाधे श्री राधे भजो प्रेम गाधे श्री भजो प्रेम गाधे श्री राधे भजो प्रेम गाधे श्री राधे भजो प्रेम गाधे श्री राधे भजो 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 राधे राधे भजो राधे राधे भजो राधे राधे भजो राधे राधे भजो श्री 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 राधे मेरी रसिक रसिक शिरोमणि आराधे जेहि रसिक शिरोमणि आराधे मेरी रसिक रसिक शिरोमणि आराधे जेहि रसिक शिरोमणि आराधे कृष्ण गोविंद गोविंद गोपाला कृष्ण गोविंद गोविंद गोपाला कृष्ण गोविंद 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 गोपाला कृष्ण गोविंद गोविंद गोपाला कृष्ण गोविंद 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 गोपाला कृष्ण गोविंद गोविंद गोपाला। बोले वृंदावन बिहारी लाल की जय, श्रीमद् सद्गुरु सरकार की जय। The bhajan I have chosen is from Siddhant Madhuri, from the Prem Ras Madira, and it is, you have the copies, Are man ubhay roop jag jaan. In this bhajan, as always, the mind is being addressed. The saint poet says that this world is of two types, the gross world and the subtle world. What is the gross world and what is the subtle world? He explains, Shabdadik vishayan padarth je sthul roop tehiman. He says that the world of sense objects, the sense of sound, taste, touch, smell, etc., is the gross world, the external world, the material world. Inki jo ur vidhur kamana tahi sukshma anuman. And what is the subtle world? The subtle world is the world of our desires, the powerful desires that reside in our heart for these worldly sense objects, material objects. That is what constitutes the subtle world, the inner world. Sthula jagat ke tajat jaat nahi sukshma jagat balwan. Pajo sukshma jagat ko tajide nahi sthula hi rahabhan. And the one who abandons, if we externally abandon or renounce worldly objects, the sense objects, that will not bring an end to the inner world, the subtle world of our desires. However, Pajo Sukshma, if one were to abandon the inner world, the subtle world, renounce the world of our desires, in other words, somehow, then the outer world will automatically lose, in other words, we will lose its awareness. We will become unaware or unconscious of the gross world, the external world. So this subject requires your full concentration. And in the last line, Shri Maharaj says, Tate tajiye kripalu kamana bhajiye ren din kan. So what is the solution to abandoning our desires or to renounce these desires, the subtle world of the inner world? That is to practice incessant, continuous devotion to Sham Sundar, to Shri Krishna. So this is the essence of this bhajan. We'll sing a few lines and then I will give a more detailed explanation. So let us sing a few lines first. Ubhaya roop jag jaan are man roop jag jaan are man Jaan Hare Man Ubhaya Roop Jag Jaan Hare Man Shabdadik Vishayan Padarth Je Shabdadik Vishayan Padarth Je Sthula Roop Tehi मान हरे मान स्थूल रूप तेहि मान हरे मान उभय रूप जग जान हरे मन 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 You see, in order to detach the mind from the world in an attempt to attach it to God and Guru, it is important, it becomes necessary for us to understand, to comprehend, and reflect on the nature of the world. So first of all, let us understand that there are two views regarding the world. One view holds the world to be real, whereas the other view declares it to be unreal. Western philosophers such as Plato, Berkeley, Kant, Hegel, Schopenhauer, and so on, believe the world to be unreal. According to these philosophers, the world has no independent existence outside our thoughts. In other words, it's only a product of our imagination. 2,500 years ago in India, the first original Jagadguru Sri Shankaracharya, also claimed the world to be unreal. Sri Shankaracharya compares the world to a snake in the dark, which, upon closer inspection, turns out to be only a piece of rope. In other words, he views the world as a mere illusion, like the imaginary snake in the dark. The later Jagat Gurus, the world masters, such as Nimbarkacharya, Ramanujacharya, and Madhavacharya reject the theory of Sri Shankaracharya, the theory of non-dualism, Advaitvad. They do not view the world as a mere illusion, but as a very real entity. And 700 years after the last Jagat Guru, that is Jagat Guru Madhavacharya, as you all know, the title of the fifth original Jagat Guru has been given to our spiritual master, Jagat Guru Dham Shri Kripaluji Maharaj. He was given this honor on January 14th, 1957, when he was only 34 years old, by Kashi Vidvat Parishad, a body of 500 most eminent, most distinguished, outstanding Vedic scriptural scholars. These 500 scholars unanimously agreed, after listening to a series of Shrimad-ji's discourses, revealing the in-depth secrets and knowledge of all Vedic scriptures, as well as the writings of the previous Jagat Gurus, the knowledge, the deep knowledge contained within the writings of the previous Jagat Gurus, that he was a Shrotriyam Brahmanishta. In other words, not only does he possess a thorough knowledge, in fact, unparalleled knowledge of all scriptures, but seeing his divine personality, his love-imbued, blissful personality, they were forced to admit that he was also a Brahmanishta, meaning a God-realized soul. Consequently, he was honored with a very lengthy and impressive title, part of which reads Bhakti Yoga Rasavatar and Nikhila Darshana Samanvayacharya. Bhakti Yoga Rasavatar means one who is the very dissension of Bhakti Yoga Ras, the nectar of divine love. And Nikhila Darshan Samanvayacharya means the reconciler of all philosophical systems, the reconciler of the discrepancies that seem to appear within the principles of religion in all philosophical systems, as well as the writings of the previous Jagat Gurus. So how does Shri Maharaj, how does he explain the nature of the world? How does he reconcile the views of his predecessors regarding the nature of the world? He says, he agrees with both. He says that the world is real as well as unreal. He agrees with Adi Sri Shankaracharya as well as the three other Jagat Gurus. So how can the world be both real as well as unreal? Let me explain, as Shri Maharaj has explained. He tells us that the world is not limited to that which we see around us, made of rivers, mountains, the ocean, the sky, etc. This is only the external world. There's also an internal world, which is the world of our mind, comprised of our thoughts, ideas, wishes, hopes, and desires. Therefore, it becomes necessary for us to examine both, if we truly want to understand the nature of the world, to examine both the external world as well as the internal world. So first, let us take a look at the external world. This world is a gross world. The world that we see around us, the world that we live in, made of the 5 gross elements, ether, air, fire, water, and earth, as well as the relative products of these elements. However, it would be very naive of us to restrict the outer world to just the world we see, hear, taste, touch, and smell. Why? Because creation, you see, Srishti, creation consists of innumerable Brahmand, or world regions, cosmic eggs. And each one of these cosmic eggs is governed by Brahma, Vishnu, and Shankar. In this way, there are innumerable Brahmas, Vishnus, and Shankars in existence as well. And the earth is only a minute fraction of one of these innumerable cosmic eggs. And what is the size of a single cosmic egg? The Vedas tell us that one cosmic egg constitutes, it is composed of 5 mandalas, 7 lokas, and 3 trilokis. According to the Vedas, the earth that we are living on is one of the mandalas referred to as Bhumandal. And this Bhumandal contains within it Bhurlok, another world within the bigger world, you could say. And this Bhumandal derives its stability from the attraction force of another mandal known as Surya Mandal. Surya, as you know, means sun. And the Surya Mandal contains within it a loka called Suhalok or Swarlok. And between the Bhumandal and the Surya Mandal, there's another mandal known as Chandra Mandal, which contains within it Bhuvahalok. Therefore, the 3 lokas, Bhur, Bhavaha, Swaha, constitute what is called a Triloki. This group of 3 lokas is referred to by the Vedas as Rodasi, and it includes Bhumandal, Chandramandal, and Surya Mandal. Now, the Surya Mandal derives its stability from the attraction force of another mandal called Parameshti Mandal, which contains within it Janalok. Now, between Janalok and Swaralok, there's another lok called Mahalok, Mahalok. So the second set of 3 lokas, Swaha Mahajanaha, constitute the second Triloki, which extends up to Parameshti Mandal. Now, this Parameshti Mandal derives its stability from the attraction force of another mandal called Swayambhu Mandal, which contains within it another lok known as Satyalok. And between Satyalok and Janalok, there's another lok called Tapahalok. Thus, again, the 3 lokas, Janaha, Tapaha, and Sataha, constitute the 3rd Triloki. So in this way, one single cosmic egg contains 5 mandalas, Bhumandal, Chandramandal, Surya Mandal, Parameshti Mandal, and Swayambhu Mandal. And 7 lokas, Bhu, Bhava, Swaha, Maha, Janaha, Tapaha, and Sataha. And 3 Trilokis, Bhur, Bhava, Swaha, Soha, Maha, Janaha, Janaha, Tapaha, and Sataha. This is just to give you an idea of the vast size. This is the vast expanse, uninterrupted surface of a single cosmic egg. And in this way, there are innumerable cosmic eggs in existence. This is why the Devi Bhagavad states, Sankhya chetraja samasti na vishvanam kadachana. Meaning that it may well be possible to count the grains of sand on earth or the particles of dust on earth, but it is impossible to count the number of innumerable cosmic eggs in existence, in this creation. And the cosmic egg, which contains the earth, or Swayambhu, or rather Bhumandal, is the smallest one of all. Therefore, it is impossible to comprehend the infinite vastness of this creation with our finite and material mind. This extraordinary vastness in the form of this universe at large is manifested by God with the help of his power, Maya, which you all know what Maya is. What is Maya? The scriptures tell us. Mayam tu prakritim vidyan mayanam tu maheshwaram tasyavayava bhutaistu vyaptam sarvamidam jagat. Shvetashvatara 4:10. Maya is a power of God, a potency of God, a Shakti, Jada Shakti. The Shandilya Sutra recognizes the same. Shaktitvan nanritam vedyam. The Bhagavad also states, Esha Maya Bhagavataha Sargasthithyanta Karani. 11.3.16. The Maya is a power of God. The Gita also tells us, Daivi hesha gunamayi mama maya duratyaya mamevaye prapadyante maya metam tarantite. 7:14 Gita. Lord Krishna says, Maya, mama maya. Maya is his power. The Ramayana also says, Jagat prakashya prakashak ramo mayadhish jnana guna dhamo. The Ramayana says that Maya, that God, rather, is the Lord of Maya. In other words, he governs Maya. And being a potency of God, Maya is eternal, like him. Hence the Vedas tell us, Gya gyau dvavaja vishani shavaja yeka bhoktri bhogyartha yukta anantaschatma vishwarupo hyakarta triyam yada vindate brahma metat. Shvetashvatara 1:9. Thus the scriptures tell us that Maya is an eternal power of God which creates the universe. Now a question may enter our mind, because the scriptures also tell us that Maya is devoid of consciousness and intelligence. So, in other words, it would not be wrong to compare Maya to a piece of cloth, because a cloth is also devoid of consciousness and it does not possess a mind or an intellect. In other words, Maya is a godly power which is inert, lifeless, jad. It's called jad. And yet it creates the universe. How is this possible? The Ramayana tells us, gives us the answer. Jasu satyata te jad maya bhas satya iv sahit sahaya. The Ramayana tells us that although Maya is an unconscious entity, yet it appears to be conscious. It seems to be conscious. In other words, Maya acquires the power of a conscious and an intelligent entity through the power of God. For example, a pair of tongs is a lifeless, inanimate object. And yet these tongs can perform jobs which we are incapable of performing on our own. They can pick up hot, burning coals or freezing cold ice cubes and hold them indefinitely. However, these tongs cannot do anything on their own. They are inanimate. But they acquire the power to work through the power of the hands. If the hands were to withdraw their power from these tongs, they would once again become inanimate, lifeless, and unable to work. Similarly, if God were to remove his power, then Maya is rendered helpless and incapable of working as well. So the point is, you understand that Maya is a power of God, and it creates the universe through God's inspiration. And because God is real, and because he's ultimately responsible for the creation of the universe, it means that the external world is real. Satyam bhutamayam jagat, satyad bhutani jatani sthavarani charani cha. The Mahabharata also states that the external world is real. So now let us go back to our spiritual master's explanation of the world. As I mentioned, he recognizes two worlds, the external world and the internal world. He recognizes the external world to be real and the internal world to be unreal. So having taken a look at the external world, let us now talk about the inner world and see why he declares it to be unreal. But first, let us see how the inner world is created. The creator of the internal world is the mind. In other words, our ideas, thoughts, hopes, wishes, and desires, which constitute the internal world, are created by the mind. And the mind is under the control of Maya, as the Vedas tell us. Indriyebhya para hyartha arthebhyascha param manah manasastu para buddhir buddhir atma mahan parah mahta parma vyaktam avyaktat purushah parah purushan na param kinchit sa kashtha sa paragatihi. Kathopanishad 3:10-11. The Vedas tell us that great are the senses. In other words, very powerful are our senses. But even greater, even more powerful than our senses are the objects of the senses, because they govern the senses. But even greater than these sense objects is the mind. And even beyond the mind is the intellect, because it governs the mind. And even beyond the intellect is the soul. And even beyond, greater than the soul, is Maya. So in this way, the Vedas tell us that the mind is ultimately governed by Maya. Now here a question arises. Maya creates both the external world and the internal world. Then why is the external world real and the internal world unreal? The scriptures tell us. They give us the answer to everything, to every question we have, or we can think of. The Ramayana tells us that Maya has two aspects, Vidya Maya and Avidya Maya. एक रचई जग गुण बस जाके प्रभु प्रेरित नहीं निज बल ताके एक दुष्ट अतिशय दुख रूपा जा बस जीव पराभव कूपा. So one aspect of Maya creates the universe, and the other aspect of Maya rules over the mind. The aspect of Maya which creates the universe is known as Vidya Maya, or the intelligent aspect, since it is equipped with the knowledge of God. So it is Vidya Maya that creates the universe with the help, with the knowledge of God. And the other aspect of Maya, known as Avidya Maya, is the ignorant aspect of Maya. And it is this ignorant aspect of Maya which rules over the mind. And therefore, the external world is real and the internal world is unreal. Now, because the external world is real, all its products are real and remain the same. For example, you will always see a tree having the same form. You would never see a tree with head up and feet down. You would always see a tree with head down and feet up, the roots down, underground. And what about the internal world of our mind? Because it is unreal, the world of our mind is ever changing. Let me give you an example to clarify the difference between the inner world and the outer world. Suppose there are two people, two friends, who are walking down the street and suddenly they happen to see a shining object in front of them on the ground. Both of them recognize the object to be a diamond, and hence both of them run towards it to pick it up. The faster runner gets to it first, and the diamond becomes his. Now, naturally, this man is extremely happy because he has just found a diamond. His friend, however, is very sad. Now, the diamond is one and the same, yet it has created two completely opposite feelings in the minds of the two friends. Now, suppose another man, a third man, happens to pass by, and he inquires as to why one man is so happy and the other so gloomy. After listening to their story, and despite seeing the diamond, this third man fails to understand why one man is so happy and the other so gloomy over a mere stone. The diamond does not create any feelings in the mind of the third man. Why? Because the man does not know the value of a diamond. So again, mind you, the diamond is the same, it is one and the same, yet it creates three different feelings within three individuals. These feelings are the product of the mind, and therefore they are unreal. Let us take another example. Suppose a woman walks into a room full of people. As soon as she walks into the room, one person sees her as his daughter, one as his sister, one as his wife, and yet another as his mother. One looks at her lovingly, one looks at her in anger, and another with hatred. The woman is one and the same, yet she's seen differently by different people. The woman who's a product of the external world created by God is real, and yet the feelings towards her vary from person to person. And because these feelings are created by the inner world of the mind, they are unreal. So it is proven that the outer world is real and the inner world is unreal. However, great scholars, great philosophers, and spiritual leaders such as even Jagadguru Shankaracharya declare the world to be a mere illusion. But our Gurudev, Shrimhaji, says, let us ask these individuals who claim the world to be unreal a question. What do you eat? The answer is food, of course. But he says, why do you eat food when, according to your theory, the world is only a product of our imagination? In other words, then that would mean that food is also just a product of our imagination. And yet, some people may argue that there have been yogis in India who have subsisted, who have survived on fruits and leaves. And yet, these fruits and leaves are also products of the external world. And then there are yogis who live on air alone, by breathing alone. But the air they breathe is also one of the elements that the world is made of. And then there are yogis who live even without air. They control their breathing through pranayama and spend their life in meditation. But Shimaji said, but the earth that they sit on is also one of the 5 elements that this world is made of. And then there are a few yogis who acquire the power to suspend themselves in space. In other words, they don't eat, they don't breathe, they don't inhale any air, oxygen, etc. They don't sit on earth either. They are suspended in space. And yet the sky is also one of the 5 elements that this world is made of. The point is, how far can one go dismissing this external world to be an illusion, to be unreal, when our very body is made of the 5 gross elements that this world is made of? So, Shimaji used to say, if anyone tells you that this world is unreal and only an illusion, then ask him why he lives in this unreal world. Because the truth is, the fact is that this world continues to exist regardless of whether you accept it to be real or denounce it or reject it to be an illusion. Furthermore, as you may know, Jagat Guru Shankaracharya wrote numerous commentaries on the Vedanta, the Upanishads, the Gita, and many other scriptures. But again, if he claimed the world to be unreal, then where did he get the pen and paper from? If he claims that the world is only an illusion, then the world, according to his theory, the world should not have existed for him. Mountains, trees, even villages should have all disappeared, but they did not. That means that the world is real. And furthermore, Sri Shankaracharya he built temples and established deities in these temples in the 4 main places of pilgrimage. That is Badrika Ashram, Dwarika, Jagannath Puri, and Rameshwaram. But why did he place images of God in these temples when, according to his theory, the world is only a product of our imagination? Another point, another logic against his theory of non-dualism. We all know that internally, although he propagated the theory of non-dualism, Advaitvad, externally, but internally, he worshipped the personal form of God. But the philosophy that he propagated, another point, another logic against his theory of non-dualism is that if the world is only a product of our imagination, then 100 people looking at one and the same object should see it as 100 different things. One would see it as a house, another as an elephant, or as a mountain, or as an ink pot, and so on. In other words, everyone would or should see one and the same object as something different according to their feelings and their state of mind, if the external world is only a product of our imagination. But that is not so. The fact is that the external world does not change according to the mental state of the person observing it. It remains the same for everyone. It means that the external world is real. For example, we can ask 100 people, or for that matter, 1,000,000 people to look at a house, and all of them would see it as a house. No one would see it as a horse, or as a mountain, a river, etc. So the point is, again, the outer world is real and the inner world is unreal. And this fact was accepted even by Vidyananda, a disciple of Sri Shankaracharya himself. And he stated this in Panchadashi. And yet, in spite of the fact that the external world is real and the inner world of our mind unreal, it is the internal world that poses a real problem for us. Leibniz, a German philosopher and a mathematician, has admitted. He writes, our inner world is richer, ampler, larger, and more complex. We can accomplish many things in the inner world of our mind which we would never be able to accomplish in the external world. For example, we would never be able to fly like a bird in the sky in the external world, but we could easily accomplish this miraculous act in the inner world of our mind. But how is the inner world dangerous for us? How does it pose a real problem for us? The inner world of our desires, etc., is dangerous because due to it, we become attached to the external world. If the internal world could somehow be destroyed, then there would be no question of forming attachments to the outer world. If the inner world could be destroyed, the outer world would not pose a problem for us, would not pose a threat for us. As the scriptures state, Bharatahi hoi naraj mad, vidhi hari har pad pai. The individual whose internal world is destroyed remains detached from the outer world. Even if he's offered the seats of Brahma, Vishnu, and Shankar, the highest seats. Some examples of such personalities are Dhruv, Prahlad, Ambarish, Janak, Dashrath, and so on. They were all kings and yet completely detached from the world, instead experiencing only the omnipresence of God in each and every particle of this creation. Isha vasyam dagvam sarvam. They openly declared, Purukheve dagvam sarvam, sarvam khalvidam brahma. That each and every particle of this creation, God resides in each and every particle. Siya Ram maye sab jag jani, karau pranam jori jug pani. Once the inner world is destroyed, the individual starts experiencing the omnipresence of God. He starts experiencing the bliss of God in each and every particle of the universe. So if the inner world is destroyed, the outer world can no longer harm us in the least. Please pay attention. But what if the scenario is reversed? What if the situation is reversed? What if the outer world is non-existent? What if the inner world is still in existence, but the outer world is non-existent? In other words, it is no longer before us. Will our mind become detached, seeing that the external world is non-existent? It is no longer before us? No. Our mind will stay attached to the external world as long as the inner world is in existence. Let me give you an example to show you what I mean. Suppose you have a son to whom you are very much attached, and suppose one day he goes off to live in another country. Now your son is no longer in your presence. You cannot see him, hear him, or talk to him. In fact, none of your five senses can experience him. Does this mean that you will become detached from your son? No. you are still attached, your mind is still attached to your son. You will still think, you will still worry and think about your son. You will continue to worry and think about your son, although he's no longer in your presence. This is what is meant by the inner world continuing to exist in spite of the absence, even though the outer world is no longer in your presence. Your son, who's a product of the external world, is non-existent. In other words, he's no longer before you. And yet, the inner world of your thoughts about your son is still in existence. You are still attached to your son, in spite of his absence. In fact, they say that in cases of extreme attachment, a person may even die by merely thinking about the other person. And you may be surprised to know, let me tell you another thing, that a person who is born blind since birth, sees dreams. He has dreams. This is very surprising because our dreams are generally a confused mixture of what we see in our daily life. For example, it may be that looking at a bird flying in the air, all of a sudden you get a strong urge to fly like a bird in the sky. So at night you see yourself flying in the air, in your dreams. But a person who was born blind has never seen the external world. How does he see the world in his dreams then? This tells us, this indicates to us that the internal world of our mind, of our thoughts, of our desires is so great that it remains intact even in the absence of the external world. Moreover, the inner world continues to expand by merely thinking about the outer world. You see, as long as the inner world exists within us, there remains a danger of attachment to the outer world. However, the influence of the outer world is much greater when it is present before us than when we are secluded from it. For example, why? Because the inner world expands in the presence of the outer world. Suppose a child is crying for cookies. To give you an example, as long as he does not see the cookies in the cookie jar, he will cry in front of his mother. And if the mother ignores him or refuses to give in to him, the child will cry and whine, and eventually he will forget about them. But if it so happens that the child sees the cookies, he will keep on crying until the mother gives in to him. Why? Because the child's desire for the cookies grows immediately upon seeing them. Let us take another example. Let us say that there is a person that you dislike immensely, and you think about this person from time to time. But if it so happens that you see this person face to face one day, your dislike for him or her will grow stronger, and you will think about him more often than before. And the same applies for someone you love dearly. Why? Because the reason is that the inner world expands in the presence of the outer world. Although it expands even in its absence, yet it expands even more in its presence than in its absence. So just to summarize a few of the main points, we must understand that there are two worlds in existence, the external world and the internal world. The external world is the world, the gross world that we live in, made of the 5 gross elements. And it is real because it is created by the intelligent aspect of Maya, Vidya Maya. It is perfect because it has been created by God. There's nothing, absolutely nothing wrong with the external world. And that is the gross world. And there is the internal world, the world of our mind, which consists of our desires, thoughts, ideas, wishes, hopes. And it is the inner world of the mind which is unreal. And it is because of the inner world that we have been attached to the outer world since time immemorial. So the inner world is unreal, and the external world is real. And because the external world is real, it does not change in form like the internal world does. However, as I said before, it is the inner world of our mind that is at the root of all our problems. Why? Because the inner world expands not only in the presence of the outer world, but also in its absence. It means, what does this mean? It means that our desires, which constitute the inner world of the mind, are ever increasing, as a result of which we are getting more and more entangled in the world and getting further and further away from God. So why is our mind, the inner world of the mind, so attached to the external world? The answer is very simple. Because it firmly believes that there is happiness in the external world and that we will attain this happiness sooner or later. So what is the solution? The solution is, the next step is to convince the mind that there's no real happiness in the external world, using spiritual knowledge, as you have been listening. That the external world is not a source of happiness, and that true happiness, the real happiness, divine bliss, Divya Anand, that which is unlimited and that which is everlasting. In fact, that is the only type of happiness that will satisfy us. It will completely fulfill us. The happiness which is defined by the Vedas. Yo vai bhuma tat sukham, nalpe sukhmasti bhumat tve vijigyasitavya. Chandogya Upanishad. And that happiness, that Divya Premanand, can only be found in the Supreme Personality, that is Shri Krishna. Or God or Guru, the God realized saint, his perfect devotee. And this is why Shri Maharaj says in the last line that without devotion, there's no question of attaining happiness, true bliss, even in our dreams. Although we may endeavor, we may make an effort to do so in countless ways to accomplish that divine bliss. So I will continue on with this topic in my next discourse, which is next Tuesday, and we will chant the remaining lines of this bhajan. Ubhaya Roop Jag Jaan Are Man. Ubhaya Roop Jag Jaan Are Man. Ubhaya Roop Jag Jaan Are Man. Ubhaya Roop Jag Jaan
हरे मन
जगत को तजी दे।
जो सूक्ष्म जगत को तजिए,
जो सूक्ष्म जगत को तजी दे।
जो सूक्ष्म जगत को तजी दे।
नहीं स्थूल ही रहा भान हरे मन।
नहीं स्थूल ही रह भान हरे मन।
उभय रूप जग जान हरे मन।
उभय रूप जग जान हरे मन।
ताते तजिया, ताते तजिया कृपालु कामना।
ताते तजिया कृपालु कामना।
कृपालु कामना।
कृपालु कामना।
ताते तजिया कृपालु कामना।
ताते तजिया कृपालु कामना।
भजिय रैन दिन कान हरे मन।
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 उभय रूप जग जान 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 हरे मन।
बोले श्रीमद सद्गुरु सरकार की लाडली लाल की
जय।
जय जय श्री राधे। जय जय